You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Bulls Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Joe George here with you. The Bulls lose 128-110, an 18-point loss as the All-Star break has finally arrived. 27 games left in the season to get the tank fully underway for the Bulls. We're going to talk about Ayo Dosunmu in this game a lot here in the first segment. Some questionable decisions, are curious decisions, I would say, by Billy Donovan, or things that just stood out in the first quarter, in the first half for me. The injuries that happened, couple ugly performances by one of the newest members of the Bulls, and the best and worst moments of this game. And we'll wrap the show up with our Tankathon update, as well as where the Bulls stand in the play-in standings. So the Bulls lose by 18. Like, this is another game where they're shooting the ball terribly. At one point, they're 4 for 22 from 3. That's at the end of the half. Coby White missed his first 7 shots before he finally hit back-to-back threes. But this game starts better, at least, than yesterday's did. Like, if you're going to take the ultimate glass-half-full look at a basketball game, that's it. That you're tied at the end of the first quarter, 32-32, after getting absolutely worked by the Detroit Pistons in yesterday's game. So at least they come back today and they start better off. It's 32-32 at the end of the first quarter. They're only down 7 at the end of the first half, so they start to fall apart a little bit there. And then obviously it just totally unravels there. And look, even at the end of the game, at one point they got it down to 11. It went right back up to 19. They got back down to 10. The lead back down to 10 for the Pistons, and then of course they lost by 18 points. So they battled in this game. I guess that's a positive. They didn't totally quit on themselves. But a couple of things that really stood out here. Before we get into Ayo, this is where I think you can again see the mess that was the NBA trade deadline. We're going to talk more about Kevin Huerter and his performance as a Bull so far tonight, specifically in the second segment of the show. The frustration for Nikola Vucevic is at an all-time high right now. And I really am starting to wonder if he's really pissed he's a Bull. Honestly, probably not even don't have to wonder. You watch what's happening, last night. He's throwing stuff. He's slamming a towel against a chair, throwing it into the stands or at the towel boy last night. He's pissed off in this game. He's not a happy camper. He's not playing well for the most part. Tonight was obviously a much better game. He was averaging around, 10 points a game in the 4 games prior to this. So Vooch has been pretty terrible, honestly, since the Zach LaVine trade went down. The frustration for this team seems to be hitting a boiling point, I would say. And I think that's the worst part of the worst thing that could have happened to the Chicago Bulls after the trade deadline. It wasn't making the play-in tournament and doing something stupid with your lottery pick. It wasn't, not trading all your guys. It was the combination of all of it that's kind of, so far, 27 games left for this to change, obviously, and my gut tells me it's going to, even though Paul George was atrocious tonight for the 76ers. The Brooklyn Nets are now also a game and a half back of you in the 11-10 spot for the play-in tournament. But Vooch's frustration, the players' frustration, there's even a couple moments where, Miles Buzelis had a bad play. The camera pans to Billy Donovan. He's pissed off. He's, ranting and raving about something that's happening in the game right now. But this kind of feels like the worst of what could happen to the Bulls after the trade deadline. The players are super frustrated with the way they're playing. They're not happy with it. They keep talking about how things change. It's on them, blah, 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 blah. We heard it all last night after the, pathetic performance in the first Pistons game. And I'm sure we'll hear more of the same when they meet with the media tonight going into the All-Star break, because Vooch and Coby White and Josh Giddey, these guys will talk about just not having it, not enough effort, not enough, grit in these basketball games to withstand it. Excuses. The reality is you're just bad. They don't have to keep making them, to be honest. Like, I almost want to defend them for a second and be like, it's not really your guys' fault what's happening. Your roster's just bad at this point. But this game, it does start off better. Like I said, you're only down by 7 points at halftime. But really throughout this game, the most important thing for me that I want to talk about here in a positive light, because I can't just rant and rave and be pissed off for this team for the next 27 games. I will be miserable doing this show. I don't think people are interested as much about a team that's trying to tank and just being angry about everything. So we're going to talk about something that I was encouraged by, something I'm confused by, something I want more of. from the Bulls. I want to talk about Ayo's performance tonight. So Ayo Dosunmu goes for 23 points in this game. He's super aggressive right now. And you know what? This is what I don't understand about this game for Ayo, is he could do this all the time. But he does this thing, and they talk about it on the broadcast again tonight, where, he wants to just play so much better against the 37 guys. I think I have that right. The 37 guys that were drafted in front of him in the NBA draft. And Cade Cunningham, the first pick in that draft, is out there tonight. And it just feels like he just kicks it into this extra gear, which is fun to watch. What I want from Ayo is I just want him to, he needs to unlock that mentally all the time. I really do think he is a good player and can be, when you think about the future of this Bulls basketball team. It's a super cheap contract. It's a guy I don't think you have to trade. He attacks the bucket really well. He plays good defense. He's always has good effort. He's not one of the guys that when the Bulls are losing to bad basketball teams that are way worse than them and they're not showing up when Levine's there, obviously. Ayo's never one of those guys you had to worry about being there on a day in and day out basis for a game. He's always there. But when he plays these guys that were drafted in front of him, he takes it to a different level. So my hope for Ayo is that at some point in his career, and maybe just this season, he can just start to do this more frequently because he can just get to the basket. He's so fast with the ball in his hands. And it doesn't matter that he goes against a guy that is much bigger than him. He has great body control. He can get to the free throw line. Obviously, he can make those. And we've seen an uptick in his three-point shooting this season after a really disastrous start to the year. So I am an Ayo believer at this point, and we'll stick with that. I just want him to, whatever happens before a game when he knows he's going against someone that was drafted in front of him, I would just like to see him find a way to unlock that more consistently at this point. Couple comments here. Sammy says, evening everyone. Ayo still a gem on this team. Totally agree. He also says Ayo is a great multi-skilled player that can fit with anyone. Totally agree with that as well. I think that's part of the reason why he will be looked at as someone that teams might want to trade for. But again, as James says here, we got official reports the Bulls got a first-round pick for Alonzo Ball. So I don't know what they're doing. That's one of the worst parts also this trade deadline. Is the reports that are coming out after of what was on the table is making the trade deadline more and more infuriating, I think, at this point for Bulls fans. I almost just need the leaks to stop because I almost just want to stop knowing how bad it really was. It's just don't tell me what's going on behind closed doors so I can pretend in my mind for at least one day of the 7 a week that the Bulls don't have the most incompetent front office in the entire NBA. But yes, they would have had to take on a long-term contract from the Minnesota Timberwolves here. I don't know exactly who it would have been in the report. I didn't see a name attached to it, but they could have got a first back, from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they chose not to. It's a strange decision. Other thing from the beginning of this game, besides just Ayo that I want to hit on here quick before our first break, we're at halftime here, okay? Looking at the minutes, we're going to talk more about Kevin Huerter here in a second because he was terrible. He had 14 minutes at the end of the half. I know him and Modest Buzelis don't play the exact same position here, but Modest at 10. In what world is Billy Donovan living in that this new guy, who sucks since he's a member of the Bulls, maybe he can figure it out at some point. I don't know. He won't be a Bull long term, so I'm not super invested in Kevin Huerter. But in what world does it make sense that in a half of basketball in which Modest Buzelis is starting a basketball game, no matter what bad habits he's still growing out of, Kevin Huerter is a guy that should have more minutes than Modest Buzelis? There is no world, no planet we should live on in which that is the case. And we're going to talk more about Kevin's performance tonight because it's real bad at what he did tonight. Plus, we're going to hit on these injuries that happened. We'll try to get some real-time updates from Billy Donovan as we talk because Patrick Williams and Coby White both left the game tonight at some point with injuries. So we'll help the tank most likely, but you hate to see guys get injured at the same time. So we'll get into the next here on the Locked On Bulls postcast on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up and clearing out or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair has everything you need all within your budget. Currently looking for a new couch? We got our couch got put to the test last night by our 3-year-old. We might be looking for a new one at this point. My favorite part, it's easy. They have free, hassle-free delivery, even for large items. WayFair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything in no time. Give your home the refresh it needs with WayFair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAR.com. WayFair. Every style, every home. Samity also says more Jalen and JP, less Herter. Yes. Why are we playing the new guys? Except for Zach Collins, who you traded for and reportedly we're going to keep. Assuming Trey Jones' minutes are going to evaporate once Lonzo Ball is no longer sick. So we'll start there. Like Trey Jones, I'm curious about him. I'm not, something that also like Kevin Herter, that like really matters to me. But I would imagine Trey Jones is not going to play much. And yes, as James says here also in the chat, a different James, the Bulls are tanking and they're playing like garbage. Facts. Even though you're tanking, Kevin Herter playing more minutes than Modest Buzelis in a half of basketball is totally illogical. It makes no sense. You're supposed to build for the future. And it's again why I question why Billy Donovan is the right guy. And I know you want to coach guys, and maybe Modest Buzelis did something in the first half that I missed that was very specifically of the reason why, they wanted to take him out for a little bit in the first half. Maybe he's a little tired after a back-to-back. Like all those things are on the table. But he's also like 19 years old or whatever he is. Like I can't imagine he's that gassed on a back-to-back. He did play really well at this point. I thought in this game, like not his best performance, but another strong start, 8th straight game with double-digit points from Modest Buzelis. But so that's what I just don't quite understand. Now I don't have these full numbers here from Kevin Herter. But he was 0 for 6 in this game at halftime, 0 for 4 from the three-point line. He has so this play is going to get mentioned twice because it's going to get mentioned in our best and worst as well. Maybe one of the 2 worst plays I've ever seen a basketball player make. The missed dunk, I don't understand. He did not get touched, and he missed the rim. It was, I think, an attempt at acting, and then he just missed it and then didn't get the call. And then there was the lob pass. I think it was the Patrick Wiliams that hit off the backboard. Comical plays from Kevin Herter in this game. But he goes 1 for 8, 0 for 5 from the three-point line. He was a +4 on the night. So congratulations on that, Kevin. But he was brutal. And again, this goes back to the trade deadline. I'm just like, why are you not unloading these guys, specifically Kevin Herter, Trey Jones, Zach Collins, for whatever you can get? Zach Collins, who, again, you reportedly were the most likely to keep of the 3, who doesn't even play unless an injury happens at this point. And now maybe we'll see him, because that leads into the 2 storylines of this night that will be maybe the most important, I would say, for the rest of the season. It helps the tank, of course. It does affect, I think, some of what you could see in terms of like learning about what Patrick Williams, Coby White, and Modest Buzelis could do together. And look, we don't have another one of these shows until next Thursday because of the All-Star break. But you got Patrick Williams goes down. He leaves with the trainer. He's upset. He does not come back. Coby White, he leaves the game when he made that interception on the inbounds pass, which was a really actually nice defensive play for him. Maybe his best play of the night besides the back-to-back threes. He leaves the game, goes back to the locker room. He eventually returned to the bench. But those are probably 2 of the more interesting things, I would say, or important things that happened for the Bulls tonight was just those 2 injuries. Because, again, it will help you with the tank, doing your part. The more, Kevin Herter, Zach Collins minutes, the better. Because that's probably what those are. Like, if you're going to miss Coby White and Patrick Williams for a significant amount of time, I would imagine that it's, Herter and Collins who really become a focal point part of this lineup. Zach said here in the chat they should start Herter and Dalen Terry. We might end up with the number 1 pick. Maybe, probably not, but probably close. I would imagine. Again, you're going to need some help here because what's happening in the Eastern Conference around you. The Bulls are trying their darndest to get this tank on, but the Brooklyn Nets, maybe they'll be able to help you out a little bit here. Coming out of the All-Star break, but the Philadelphia 76ers, and if you missed it on the broadcast or any of the reports that have come out today, Joel Embiid might be due for another surgery. So if the 76ers continue to play this way, they themselves might start looking at a tank opportunity at this point because their season's fallen apart very quickly at this point. But yeah, Kevin Huerter, he's been pretty terrible. There's really no other way to say it, and it's just, I don't know. It just makes me more frustrated about the trade deadline. That this is a guy that's on your team taking up minutes, and while I know Dalen Terry is not a great basketball player, and they don't exactly play the same position at times, it would logically be his minutes that would be there, for you. So we'll see what happens next. Kevin Huerter, let's see, he was 0 for 6. I'm gonna do some quick math here. He was 0 for 6 at the end of the first half. He was 1 for 8. So Kevin Huerter is now 4 for 22 shooting as a member of the Chicago Bulls. That is downright terrible. Patrick Wiliams here from Billy Donovan after the game. Not a long-term injury thing here. Patrick Wiliams said he hit knees and aggravated a tendon, but x-rays checked out. He's fine. So he's not concerned about this being a long-term issue. So that's good, at least for his health. Because again, he has been interesting, I think, in this new role coming off of the bench for the Bulls. I still don't know what is a role for him on this team in the future. It's an expensive contract to put this guy as a sixth man, but again, this is what I wanted to see post trade deadline. Was I would have liked to see him just get more run with Buzelis on the court at the same time. But since you didn't move Vooch and you didn't really blow this thing up, they seem to be very hesitant still to want to take that direction. I mean, honestly, at this point, I think, coming out of the All-Star break, they're not going to bench Giddey. It was glowing about Ayo, so I don't even know how to make this work necessarily as we're talking it out on the fly. But I would be curious what a Patrick Wiliams, Modest Buzelis, Vooch lineup looks like with more consistent playing time, to at least think about where if the Bulls front office is still stubborn in the offseason and can't move Vooch, at least something that you have, or at least the idea of what those guys would look like with a center that's similar to Nikola Vucevic for the rest of their careers as a member of the Bulls. What doesn't work with, around Modest is, again, the only thing that really matters at this point of the season besides just officially leaving the play-in tournament and being a full-on tank team at this point. So the Bulls lose this game 128-110. They're 22-33, their lowest mark of the season, 11 games under 500. They end the first half of the season on a 4-game losing streak to the Timberwolves, Warriors, Pistons, and Pistons. If you go back before that, they've only won. Go back to the Celtics game of they're 2-6 in their last 8 games. So it's been a struggle fest at this point. We all knew it was going to be. But the Bulls season continues to get what a lot of us want, and that is the tank. All right, we'll continue talking more about tonight's game, the best and worst moments. We'll take a look at the play-in standings, the tank standings for where the Chicago Bulls stand. We'll do that in our next and final segment here of the Locked On Bulls postcast and the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Running a small business means that you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls all day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where OpenPhone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, best and worst moments of the game. Worst, the Cubs didn't get Alex Bregman. He's going to the Boston Red Sox. I'm disappointed. I thought the Cubs were going to get him, but looks like Shaw will be the opening day third baseman for the Cubs. Now back to the Bulls conversation, because that bummed me out as we were getting ready to start this pregame show to see the news coming. Again, Kevin Huerter, worst moments of the game. The dunk attempt that was not. I don't know, was it not? I'm not really sure again what it was, but he goes up for the dunk with two hands. He's like floating in the air to his left. He gets no contact and just totally misses it, falls flat on his face, doesn't get a call, doesn't get anything, and it's a turnover for the Bulls. And then he has the backcourt, the pass off the backboard that looked like a alley-oop that Patrick Wiliams or someone didn't know was coming. Patrick Wiliams, not someone that you exactly throw alley-oops to, so not really sure what he was doing. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for that one. He is a new guy on the team, so maybe he's just learning. Maybe in Sacramento, someone would go up and get that ball for him. Best moments, Modest Buzelis, 8th straight game with double-digit points. At one point in this game, this is very early in the game, to put the Bulls up 12-9, Josh Giddey hit a 3, and then then Ayo got a steal and a fast break layup to Modest Buzelis. So that was a nice little run there, very early in this game. And I did think early on too, like they were attacking really well in transition. So that was, that's a positive from this game. To go with all the things that happened in a night like this, like you got to find the little things. Again, we saw like the first couple possessions for the Pistons though, where the first play of the game, well, I think it was Ausar Thompson got the dunk. Yeah, it was Ausar. He is wide open in the middle of the paint. Like there's just no one there. He's cutting and totally has no idea what's going on. I do think we're seeing like some moments, speaking of cutting, in terms of the positive of what's going on. Because I'm assuming the Bulls are going to bring back Josh Giddey. Like you don't trade Alex Caruso, just let this guy walk. It really wouldn't make much sense to see that happen. But Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis, we're seeing some nice little moves where Modest is cutting to the rim while Giddey's kind of in the paint. Whether it's bounce passes or chest passes, like they're finding each other well in those moments. So that's, I guess, something in terms of like the future of the Bulls, like what this team's going to continue to look like. Because again, like I think Josh Giddey's going to be your point guard I would assume for the foreseeable future for the Bulls. I just really don't envision a way in which he is not the starting point guard for this team. I don't want him to be honest. Again, like if you've listened to these shows before, I'm not a very pro Josh Giddey person myself, but those are nice moments that when you think about Modest Buzelis, just getting the game of basketball, he gets that. And again, Ayo Dosunmu's performance tonight, really good, attacking at will. Just find a way to unlock whatever it is, man, that you're doing when you're playing a team that has someone drafted in front of you. Find a way to bring that thing out way more often. And it'd just be a lot of fun to see what we can see more of Ayo and Modest Buzelis do the rest of the season. So the Bulls are 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've lost 4 straight. Currently, right now, let's look at the NBA playoff standing. So the play-in tournament, they are firmly the 10 seed. They have no shot to catch Atlanta. I know it's only 4 games. They ain't making up 4 games. So they're the 10 seed or they're out at this point. Now they are a game and a half up on the Philadelphia 76ers and now the Brooklyn Nets because Joel Embiid could be having surgery again. And I want to pull up this box score from tonight's game because I saw some people tweeting it, and it was ugly. Paul George tonight, 37 minutes for the Philadelphia 76ers. 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 5 from the three-point line, and a whopping 2 points in the 100-96 loss for the Philadelphia 76ers, maybe clinching the worst contract in the NBA. So now we're looking at two teams to keep an eye on for the Chicago Bulls of who can remove them from the play-in tournament and just make our lives even easier. Toronto is a full 5 games back at this point. So I said this at the end of yesterday's show. Feel like that, even though there's 27 games left, feels like that's going to be something that you don't envision is the Bulls passing Toronto in terms of the tank standings. But Philadelphia and Brooklyn are now officially the teams to watch coming out of the All-Star break. With that, the Bulls also hit a refresh here to make sure it's accurate. The Bulls still sit at the 8th pick in the NBA draft with Philadelphia and Brooklyn tied in front of them. They have a 6% chance to land the number 1 overall pick, a 26.3% chance to land a top 4 pick. Portland is right there with you. They are a game and a half behind you in terms of the 9 pick, but they've played some good basketball, so I'm not super worried about the Bulls falling backwards. I really think the only way they move is up at some point this season. And yesterday we did the lottery tank here. And again, when we come out of the All-Star break, I'll share my screen while we do this. We're going to do one tankathon randomizer at the end of each game. Let's see. And I'm going to track these. I'm deciding this on the fly. Yesterday they got the 9th pick in the draft when we hit randomize. Today we hit randomize, sim the lottery. And the Bulls end up with the 9th pick again in the 2025 NBA draft. Again, that would suck if that happened. James, shout out to you. Thanks for saying I have a good channel. I appreciate you. We're growing here. The Bulls stink, so it's hard to grow fast when a team is terrible. Hopefully the Chicago Cubs will help us do that. Because if you're a Cubs fan, we'll be here after every single Cubs game, every single Notre Dame game when the Bears, Notre Dame game and Bears game when football season gets back around the corner. But we'll be here after the All-Star break for I think pretty much every single Bulls game. I know we're going to miss the first Saturday. Next Saturday, it's my son's birthday party weekend, so we'll be out of town. So we'll be here next Thursday after the All-Star break. Plus, we also, at some point, I don't know the full plans yet. We also will be expanding this channel to a little bit more than just postcast shows. We will be doing at some point in the new year, so this year, now it's 2025, we will be expanding also to some long-form Bears conversations with Lauren Cox, the Locked On Bears podcast host. So stay here, hit that subscribe button. All that stuff's coming up, and we are here to talk all things Bulls basketball after these games. Samity, thank you for saying happy birthday to my son. Appreciate you. We will talk to you guys after the All-Star break. Enjoy not having to watch the Bulls play terrible basketball. But when they're back, we'll be here talking about Modest Buzelis and the tank. We will talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.